Welcome to Fill the Gap, the place we bridge the gap between knowing and becoming. Today we got special guests. I'm CJ, got Chris with me, Quan in the cut. Today we got special guests, a guy who speaks perseverance, leadership, and relentless pursuit of excellence. We're going to explore his roots, his rise, his impact on and off the field. He was there, me coming up in my 8th grade year at Richmond. I was the ball boy, so I was really watching him coach other players, you know what I'm saying, picking up on his game and everything that he was doing with the linebackers and stuff like that. But I'm excited today. He can give us some gems, you know what I'm saying? I think it's everybody's dream playing and stuff like that to want to coach, you know what I mean? Like, anybody who plays football would love to do that, you know what I'm saying? He's doing that, you know what I mean? He's done touched Cleveland High School, Richmond County. Now he's at Middle Creek. Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Jacobs.
What's up, man? Appreciate it. Appreciate you, man.
What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. One thing we didn't talk about in the introduction, man, I'm a dad now. I have 2 kids. I have a wife, 2 kids, and, outside of coaching football, being a dad is one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life.
Really?
Oh my God, man. I got 2 daughters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm trying to show these girls every day what a man looks like, how a man acts, how a man dresses, how a man carries himself, everything a man should look like. And they're 4 and 18 months, so they don't understand it right now, but trying to be that constant role model for them every day, it is tough. They watch this show called Bluey. And the dad in Bluey plays with his kids on a whole nother level. Yeah. You know what I mean?
He plays with them to the point where he even forget, like he plays too much.
Right, yeah. Like he loses touch with reality.
Yeah.
And my kids expect me to play with them that way. Like, Dad, be a cow. Yeah. All right, now Dad, let me ride you upstairs. And it's like, okay, hey, I'm 35. Like I can't, my knees are hurting. You know what I mean? Like, So, but other than that, man, everything's good. Everything's good this way.
Now, since you spoke on it, just speaking about the dad, a lot of podcasts that we do, a lot of people are becoming dads. You Coach Till, everybody's dad, you know what I mean, that we done did so far. Chris, I don't have no kids, but Chris has a kid and stuff like that. And you got a Chris, you got a kid? Quan, you know what I'm saying? And just like you said, like how important it is for kids just to see you doing the things that you want them to learn. You know what I'm saying? I think it's one thing saying it, but it's another thing than speaking it and walking it as well.
Being present, for real.
Yeah, for sure.
Being present for them.
Go ahead.
Coaching football is like so much time. You have to spend so much time. But then, having my wife had never missed a game. You know what I mean? So then we have kids, still trying to, feed into these kids and also be there for my kids when they wake up in the morning. Be there to put them down at night. Be there to give them that bath, every night. And it's a lot to juggle, man. But you see the rewards and they know who Dad is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would say it's a struggle, but it's beautiful at the same time. Like, it's just a beautiful struggle. That's how I look at it. Like, you juggling, trying to make that time, but when you're there, it don't beat nothing. It's nothing that beats that. So, yeah. For sure.
I had called Chris, I think the other day, something like that. Chris was like going, he said he was going like, he was in since 8:30 in the morning, something like that.
Yeah.
And I called him right when he's walking through the door, and then his daughter's coming running up to him, like, and it's like as we were talking, he's like, his daughter's like kind of nudging him, you know what I'm saying? Like he had been there for a while. I'm like, Chris, man, like go ahead, like, you know what I'm saying? Give your family some love, like.
Cut it off.
Yeah,
like we started talking about business and opportunities and doing stuff, and my mind just be.
And I can feel that, you know what I'm saying? I can feel that his daughter just wants attention, you know what I'm saying? Like, so Chris, go see your wife and kids some love, you know what I'm saying? How hard is that just balancing football life than just family life?
I think though, I have the perfect partner. Like my wife is like, when it comes to, you talk about the idea of coach's wife, she is all of that. You know what I mean? I think she makes life easier for me during football season because she's so type A, so organized that, she's going to have every meal planned, what they're wearing to the games on Fridays, where they're going to sit at on Fridays, what time they're going to be there. We have babysitters, we have student managers that help, get the kids in and out of the cars. And, my wife really does the bulk of everything, during the season with the kids. When we're out of season, I just try to be there and be present and just be involved as much as possible. Like, my biggest thing is I take Aislinn, the oldest one, to gymnastics every Saturday. That's our time, all right? From 10 to 10:45. That's our time to be together, me watching her do gymnastics, you know what I mean? So, it's one of those things where, to me, it's not really a big deal. but I know she looks forward every morning, every Saturday morning, me taking her to gymnastics. You know what I mean? So then with the little one, I got to try to find something to kind of distract her because she's rough. The second one's rough, man. So, but having those said things that we can do that can be our time together.
Yeah.
You know, that they look forward to. They look forward to coming to football games every Friday. They're at every game. They're on the sidelines. I look back. We're playing Green Hope last year, man. I look back. My daughter's tapped me on the shoulder. One of my managers holding her. She's like, "Hey, Daddy." And like, "Hey, baby," I give her a hug and I go back to what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So they get to come out at halftime, and you know, everybody in this community adopted us as being a part of this community, man. So it's been really good to see my kids really thrive in that.
Yeah, and you can kind of see that, like, just looking on your page, like the kids are taking pictures with the football players and media day and stuff like that. Like you can see like the community just wrapping their arms around y'all, you know, embracing y'all. Just to shift gears a little bit, going back to your playing days, a two-time All Big South first team selection, 2010 Big South Defensive Player of the Year, and career stats for Coastal Carolina: 209 tackles, 27 tackles for losses, and 6 sacks at Coastal Carolina. Can you talk a little bit just about your time at Coastal Carolina?
Man, it was great, man. I tell people all the time that Coastal is like the Harvard of the South. You know, academically it's the Harvard of the South, but now nobody get down outside of school and football as people down at Coastal Carolina, man. But Coastal was really good for me. It allowed me to grow. I got recruited by them out of high school, you know, in a time where, you know, recruiting was totally different. You know, I didn't go to camp. I was just, you know, they came to a game, they called my coach, and it just kind of happened that way. But I wouldn't take anything from it. You know, some of my best friends in this world right now were my roommates in college. I met my wife in college. You know what I mean? So, you know, it was a really great place. You know, the football side of it, things did change. There was a shift. We got a new head coach my senior year, and you know, but it was still a really good time. I built some really lasting friendships down there at that place.
Yeah. And you talk about how much of a change it was since the time you was playing and the time I probably went to college and stuff like that. Can you talk about that difference between when you was going to college and between you now, like having to recruit your guys to go to college, like the big difference between those?
Well, I think, you know, the transfer portals made, you know, it's opened things up to you know, a whole nother level. But you know, I think at its core, you know, my time at Coastal, you saw a lot of guys come in and develop. You know, I think we made our money. We won a lot of football games in that area of getting the undersized linebackers at myself. I'm 5'11". They getting, you know, undersized linebackers, these transfers from South Carolina and those other places, and we won a lot of football games. But now it's a little differently because, you know, their kids are going to Coastal to develop, then they transferring out. You know what I mean? So they're looking for a different caliber of athlete. You know, I always tell people, you know, if I'm coming out of high school right now, Coastal Carolina doesn't recruit me.
Right.
Like I'm not good enough. I was underdeveloped. I was in that developmental year 2 process. They're looking for a kid ready to play, and I probably wouldn't even be able to go there now. You know, but there's still a good place, still some good football being played in that conference, and you know, hopefully they do well. Continue.
Yeah. Well, and you kind of hit on it, like just. How did you handle just the coaches looking at your size before they even looking at your play? Like, you know what I'm saying? Because I feel like I even dealt with that a little bit.
Yeah.
Going to high school, you know what I'm saying? Just I'm already judged because I'm undersized for my position.
I think too, it puts a chip on your shoulder. You know, I'm from a small town. I'm from Tabor City, North Carolina. You know, we played 2A football back then, but in that 2A football, I've probably had. As a sophomore, we had about 3 or 4 Power 5 dudes. Like we had dudes going to UNC, EC, going to UNC, NC State, going all over the place. So I saw that coming out of high school at a small school, and those guys were huge, but it showed me how to work.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think that's what kind of set me away from. I had to, you know, when you're the small guy, you got to be faster, you got to be stronger than everybody. Right. You got to be meaner than everybody. If you're not as athletic, what do I do well? And, I think I did a really good job playing into the run fit. I was a run stopper. If I had to tag myself as a player, man, I was a run stopper. I was a decent athlete, but I was hitting people. You know what I mean? So, and I think that's what kind of set people like us apart, man. You just got to have that chip, you know, that undeniable talent. You know, when I turn the film on, you know, this kid it's not like the highlights you're seeing. Can you watch a game and still get those highlights out of a game? Right. You know what I mean? So that's something that I talk about with my kids now. Yeah, the highlight film, those 3 minutes of my big plays look good, but what do 60 plays look like? What do you look like in 60 plays?
Right.
You know, are you making plays every 2 or 3 plays on the mojo? You know, are you consistently making plays, or are you just one of those guys that have 1 or 2 big plays in the game and you disappear?
Right.
You know what I mean? So, you know, I think that's what matters for, you know, those guys who are undersized, and you see it now.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And you kind of hit on consistency. I got this quote that I pulled from you that you said. It says, "Keep outworking people no matter what success you have, and you will always be different. Stay paranoid about your potential, and you'll most likely reach it." Can you talk a little bit about that?
Man, my dad, you know, growing up, my dad was like, my dad lived his dream of playing college football through me. You know what I mean? And I didn't realize it until I was probably as a freshman. You know, he had me when he was young. Him and my mom were young parents. So, you know, they're 16 and 17 and they're bringing this kid into the world. And I've seen those people sacrifice so much to give me, to give me everything I needed to have that opportunity to play football, you know, just play. And, you know, driving me to practices and, you know, staying up late, traveling for baseball and basketball. So, you know, one thing my dad always talked about, he was always about having the mindset of a hungry man. You know, a hungry man got to eat by any means necessary. You know what I mean? I don't care if I got to get that Snicker bar out the trash can and eat it. You know, I got to make a way out of no way. You know what I mean? So, and that's something that I've been able to carry, man, throughout my time playing football, being a dad, being a friend, just making a way. You know, you go back to it at Coastal when I was in 2010 as a sophomore. I was the Big South Defensive Player of the Year. Yeah. You know, and I remember the first person I called was my dad to share that success with. You know, man, I did it. I'm good. Like, that sophomore year, it's only up from here. And he was excited. But he brought me back down to earth and said, all right, what's next?
Right.
Now you got that, what's next? Now we gonna feel still All-American? What we doing now? You know what I mean? So being able to have him in my corner, man, and have parents, the young parents like I did, to show me the way how to persevere, because it was tough. You know what I mean? We went through some things as a family, but we always persevered out of that, man, and it definitely helps now that I can always go back to my upbringing. Right. You know what I mean? And stand on that. Right. When it gets tough.
Yeah. And when you kind of speak on that, looking at your page, you speak about like a family, you know what I'm saying? How do you instill that mentality into the players? Like, I know a quote or a mantra that y'all kind of have is do your job and love your brother. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you instill that?
So, you know, you think about your family. These are the people that you do anything for. You know, when things get hard, your family gonna love you no matter what. Right. You know, if I make a mistake, yeah, my parent or my brother is gonna get on my case about making that mistake, but I know they're gonna love me and say, come on, let's keep going. Right. And that's something that, you know, in a place like where we are, you know, our demographics are so spread out. So we get, you know, some of our kids live in Raleigh, some kids live in Apex, we have a few kids live in Fuquay. They kind of, you know, they're pulling in. There's no downtown Middle Creek, you know, and so all of our kids are coming from Raleigh, they're coming from Fuquay, they're coming from Apex, and they're bringing them here to kind of mold a little community together, you know, for what we do. So, you know, if we all come from different places, but we all got to have the same goal. We all got to treat each other like family. And I think that's what helps us get over some of these setbacks that we do have. You know, we go back a year ago, and man, we're 0-3. We lost 3 games by 7 points. But at no point throughout that time did our kids blink or turn on each other, because they knew we were a family. The war was still going to go on. As long as I got my brothers with me, as long as I could protect my brothers, we're going to be fine. Yeah. You know, after those 3 games, we're going to 7-game win streak. You know what I mean? So it's just that, you know, it's that embodying of who we are and then who the person next to me is and what am I willing to do for this person. Right. I'm willing to fight for this person. I'm willing to put it all on the line for this person. And, you know, and that's what makes us a family. That's no matter what they come from, what the demographics look like, what the social economics look like for every said family. I think having what we do, what they do in the weight room, what they do outside when we're working, it really brings us together, and we can lean on that.
Right. It's on the shirt.
Yeah, it's on the shirt, and it's in every hashtag we put. You know, our kids say it. You know, our kids break it down on family. You know, and it didn't take much for it to happen. You know what I mean? Like, it's the thing about working with kids is once they see success, they gonna follow it. Right. You know what I mean? Once they see something come true, if we're preaching it, and they see me with my kids, they see other people. All my coaches are starting to have kids now. They're bringing their kids around. All of our coaches' wives sit on the sideline. Once they see that and they believe it, and then now they're going to chase it. They're going to follow it now because it's all they know. That's what they believe in the saying. They believe in it.
It's culture now.
Yeah, it's the culture. Yeah. It's everything that we've been building over the last 4 years. It's a part of their culture now, of our program.
With because I'm kind of on the later ends of my college career, you know what I'm saying, still questioning with the year back and whatnot. How stepping into just real life and stuff like that, how was the transition between the fulfillment of playing, between the fulfillment of coaching?
It was tough. It was tough because when I was done playing, when I was done at Coastal, you get an agent, everybody wants to get in the league. I want to try to get in the league, you know what I mean? So, once that was all over, it was tough making that transition as a coach because in my mind, I still can play.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you want to do indie with the guys every day. Let me show you how to do it. Next thing I know, I just did 30 minutes of indie with these dudes. You know what I mean? I ain't taught them nothing. I'm just doing indie with them. You know what I mean? So Coach Castellano, he was the first head coach I ever worked with.
Come on, Coach C.
Coach C. Coach C showed me how to be a real football coach, man. Because when you're young and you're so energetic, sometimes you can become the hype man. You the guy getting everybody hyped. But he really had a conversation with me on the practice field one day and he's like, look, if you want to make this a profession, you got to coach football. Like you can't be the hype man because the hype man gets no respect. Your job is just to go get them hype, but your job ain't to coach. So either you're going to be the coach guy or you're going to be the hype man. And you pick which one you want to be, but then that's where you got to live at. You know what I mean? I kind of took that to heart and he taught me how to study the game of football, how to look at the game through someone else's eyes. You know what I mean? Because, as a player, you see things differently. I played college football, but I'm coaching kids who are probably going to never play college football. Mm-hmm. I'm coaching kids who they're doing this for totally different reasons than I did this. You know what I mean? So, trying to find those external motivators for them. And it was tough. It took me that first year to figure it out. But then once we got into that second year and really honing in with Coach C, I was kind of locked in on, being a coach and how to be a coach, how to do it. Studying film as a player versus studying film as a coach, because I'm looking at it as a player, what's going to help me? And I'm looking at it as a coach to say, how does this benefit my players? How does this game plan benefit our players versus how does it benefit me as the player? You know what I mean? It was a tough transition. Yeah. It wasn't easy. It's like some people, they make it easy transition. To me, it was tough to kind of, get out of my own way sometimes.
Do you feel like now coaching and stuff like that, do you feel like you're walking in purpose? In your true purpose?
I do, because there was a point in time where I thought that I wanted to do something different, and then it's always, man, I feel like, man, regardless of what people believe in, man, I feel like there's a God, and God has shown me that this is where I need to be, man. I've been in situations and places where kids have needed my presence. They needed me just to be there for them, that I don't know if I could really be there and hone in on that if I was doing anything differently, man. You're talking about, me and my wife, 4th of July a couple years ago, we get a call, hey, coach, kid crying, like, coach, I need a ride. You know what I mean? Like, those kids had, just being able to touch, not just kids, just people, because now they become men and they're still coming back to see me. And it lets me know that I am doing this is my purpose. This is what I'm supposed to do. I've been around this game for so long and I've been around so many different people. But all my friends who are outside of it, they were like, man, like you make this thing look so fun. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because this is what I'm supposed to do. Right. I ain't worked a day in my life. I wake up every day. I'm happy because I get to go have fun every day. Yeah. You know what I mean? I got good coaches around me. I got a good admin staff to give me everything I need. So I'm really living. I don't know if this is my dream, somebody else's dream, but I'm living it, man. This is golden.
Yeah. When he's talking about walking in purpose, I kind of look at Chris, like, I feel like Chris is walking in his purpose with this camera. You know what I'm saying? Like, Chris is paying his bills with his camera, but Chris is doing the camera stuff. You know what I'm saying? He's living his dream. You know what I'm saying? Something he truly wants to do and getting paid to do it. You know what I'm saying? Impacting a lot of people, like, just thinking about it on a different surface level, just with walking in purpose. You know what I'm saying? Like, it might feel harder for other people because they might not be walking into that true purpose of theirs. But I feel like I believe it. Like when you look at the Instagram, just Instagram alone, like you could tell, like the videos, like they're having fun out there. You know what I'm saying? They're having real fun out there. You know what I'm saying? You can kind of see that. Just people just walking in their true purpose. You know what I mean? Shifting gears, what did you major in college?
So I was a business administration major. I took econ and I was taking 12 credit hours, and they were like, man, you fail econ, you get a D, man, you're gonna be ineligible next year. So I switched communications.
Yeah.
Got out of there. Got out of there. So I still had the business background up until econ, and I did go back and take econ in the summer, but I was communications major when I graduated.
Do you feel like that helped you any with coaching now?
I think I can't say that piece of it helped me. I think just being in college and being around so many different people.
Yeah.
I think that, I'm from a small town, man. You ain't talk to people you ain't know. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I was able to get out and be around different people, man, and be really in a melting pot of so many different people from the north. Like my wife's from Boston. So I get to we go to Boston like 2 or 3 times a year, and I get to be around different people. And I think that's what helped me more than the actual being in school itself.
Right. Yeah.
Those interpersonal skills that you get just from not being afraid or having anxiety to talk to people.
Being in a position to actually have to talk to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's like a skill that just develops over time. So,
Right. But you got to be in it for it even to be anything. You know what I'm saying? Like you can go to class all day long, but if you're not practicing what you're in class for,
Right.
it's not really nothing. I mean, me and Chris, we was interviewing somebody, and after we finished interviewing, I'm like, Chris, you gotta stop. Like, you gotta stop. He was uptight. You know what I'm saying? I told him that.
He's like, man, you looking like a robot, man.
Yeah. But then
I said, what, like, for real?
Yeah.
Yes, bro. And I thought about it, I said, damn, like, I'm a robot for real.
Yeah. But then the next interview, we was interviewing somebody else right after that. Then I was the one uptight. You know what I'm saying? I was the one doing the same thing. I just told him not to do. You know what I'm saying? But it's like if you're not in it, if you're not in the fire, like you never have the awareness to even change it.
For sure. You go back and watch, like you can go Google my name and look at those interviews I was doing back in 2010. Dog, I was talking like this, I'm saying like I'm using slang. I didn't know how to speak because I'd never been in those situations, So I go to Big South Media Day as a sophomore, and I'm up there on stage in front of everybody in the conference, and you up there speaking, and they asking me these questions. Man, I sound like I'm from the sticks. You know what I mean? So. Seeing that, actually seeing it helped me change. It helped me grow a little bit. Yeah. My wife every day, she's correcting me everything I say, everything, because she's in her mind she speaks perfect English.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Her
being
mind,
up from Boston,
I speak perfect English. You know what I mean? You speak that slang. So, but it definitely helped, man. Being around that college scene and being around different people, doing things like this, it definitely helps.
Yeah. Speaking about the upcoming season for Middle Creek and stuff like that, what different things are you enforcing right now just going into the next season like that you're instilling in them? So,
we lost a really talented senior group. We got I think we had 13 seniors, and I think 6 of them going to play college football. And right now in this junior class, we have 4 kids that have D1 offers. And, sometimes when, if you got 3 offers and you got 2 offers and I don't have one yet, we might start second guessing our talent. We start second guessing our ability. Oh, I'm not good enough. So that's one big thing that I've been harping on, letting our guys know that, hey, if you work, your time will come, and then, we still got to continue to fight together as a family. No matter what this family member gets and what that family member gets, I get a raise, you get a raise at work, you get a raise, I haven't got my raise yet, but we still got to go out and fight together because what's the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal is us to do our thing when we get together to go play, this game of football. But we had a real good spring. And our seniors that we have now, man, this is coming year's year 5. And you see the change in the program. You see things happening where, I don't have to push the agenda so much, where I can just have a conversation with our seniors and it's fixed. I can have a conversation with these group of guys and things are fixed. I walk in the locker room and then the locker room is messy. I just go straight to Sports U and put a message in for our seniors. It'll be fixed. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's still like I said, I ain't been in the locker room in probably a month. But I know that when I had that conversation with guys, it's fixed. The accountability is there, and that's being pushed from the top down and not just through me.
Right.
I don't have to be on these guys' tail every day about doing the little things right. They do it. Like the lowest GPA right now in our program's at 2.87. The lowest one. I got 112 kids on our spring roster. Our lowest GPA is a 2.87 from a kid who transferred here from another place. So our grades, like I've seen the change in our kids and how our kids operate. Well, we can put a workout, we don't do it, but we can just throw the workout on the floor and those guys will go do it with no questions asked. They can blow the whistle themselves, no questions asked. Yeah. You know what I mean? So now it's about, honing in on the individuals as a must, we have to pick a new leadership council because a couple of those guys graduate and getting our leadership council in place, and then we'll go from there, man. But I really feel like we're in a really good place. We're moving down to 6A, playing 6A football now, so we'll see what that's like. Some dogs out there in Fayetteville and out east, so we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, compared to like Richmond and stuff like that, just from a small town, and moving up to like the city area, almost. Do you think that's a big difference between people trying to get to the next level to college and stuff like that?
I do think it helps being in the metropolitan areas where guys get off an airplane and they just hit all the local schools in this area.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you're in Richmond being an hour and a half away, they really have to plan to get down there. Now, the thing about going down to Richmond is you're going to get players. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You're going to get some really good football players over the years. Now, historically, I think that's what you guys are known for, having athletes and having players in every sport. You know what I mean? Not just football, but in all sports. But I do think there's not a competitive advantage here. I think there's just an advantage that there's being so many schools in this area. You know what I mean? There's 1 million people in Wake County. There's 25 high schools in Wake County. You know what I mean? So if you're recruiting, you probably hit, the outer band of Wake County, and you probably hit 15 schools. And, and they're all like right now at Middle Creek, there's a school 5 miles away. There's Fuquay 7 miles away. There's all these schools like in a short, distance. So, it's I don't think there's a competitive advantage, but I do think there's an advantage when when you can just get sheer numbers in the recruiting game.
Yeah, man, it's crazy to think about, like, because even when I was in Richmond, I used to think like, because I didn't get my first offer till like after going into my senior year. You know what I'm saying? I didn't get my first because that was during COVID and stuff like that. So it was like seeing other guys with just D1 offers, like. It's just so mentally mind-boggling. Like, am I going to get to the next level? Am I going to play college? Am I good enough to even be thinking about this? You know what I mean? Like, and just to see you guys, guys got 4 offers, 3 offers, like that's huge. You know what I mean?
I think too, and I go back to being in your case, being in your shoes. A lot of guys, social media doesn't help.
Right.
People see social media. You see everybody on the outside getting these things, and you think, okay, where's mine? Where's my chance going to come? So that's something we have to talk to our kids about every day. Social media, it isn't always real. You know what I mean? So just because you see guys on social media getting these things on social media, it doesn't mean that you're less. You know what I mean? I think we spend a lot of time on that. From a sports psychologist, perspective of how we kind of mentally condition our guys to not buy into that social media crap. There's dudes that sit at home all day and they just post stuff on social media about high school kids, about, you got to pay to get ranked. You got to pay to come to this camp. You got to pay this, pay that. And they make a living off of that, exploiting high school kids. Yeah. You sometimes you feel like that, you're less than if you don't have that, or you're not in those conversations. So your parents feel like they have to pay that money to be that. But there's a lot of scammers out here. There's a lot of scammers. Be wary of the scammers. Yeah. A lot of scammers. But going back to you getting your first offer, all right? I was on the phone with Warren Messer. Warren Messer played linebacker here, played at Elon, and he was on staff at Liberty. He
offered me at Liberty. That's crazy.
So Warren Messer calls me and says, "Hey man, I know you were at Richmond. Do you remember this kid?" And I was like, "Man, if you can get this kid out of North Carolina, dog, hey, don't let him get him. Don't let him go nowhere else." I remember having this conversation on my front porch during COVID because I remember I had just went for a run, came back, and Warren called me about you.
Me?
Called me about you. Warren Messer called me about you. And this is for I don't know, did Liberty offer you first?
Yeah.
Yeah. Warren Messer called me about you, asked me did I know you, because he knew I left here to go to Richmond.
Yeah.
And I coached him here.
Dang.
And that's how the world works, man. Yeah. Like you talk about building relationships, in this recruiting game, in this high school football game. He literally had a conversation. I said, look, I didn't get a chance to coach him, but if I could take him away from Richmond right now, I'm willing to mortgage my house to go get him. I remember that like it was yesterday, man.
Nah, yeah. The small world. Like I remember when I posted my Elon offer, I didn't know him at that time. I posted my Elon offer and I had posted on Twitter, and it was a guy. He was just running number 34 in an Elon jersey. Mm-hmm. Turns out that was him that I posted when he played at Elon.
Yeah.
So like, just crazy how small the world is and stuff like that. But man, for kids out there, you know what I'm saying, who's in football or any other niche, you know what I mean, like. Just the motivation and mindset, like what would you give to them that they can use in whatever field they're in?
Stay true to yourself. Stay grounded. Whatever you believe in, stay grounded in that, and stay true to yourself. Figure out what you want, what you like, what you're into, and then chase that. Whatever your dreams and goals are, chase that. You don't get caught up in this social media hype. Instagram is fake. Instagram is just a commercial of people's lives. Yeah. You look at our Instagram for football, it's just a commercial of what we do. We're showing you, hey, this is what it's like at Middle Creek. Come check out Middle Creek. It's just a commercial. We don't show how hard it gets in the weight room, how hot it gets in the weight room, how hard it is when these guys run these 110s and run these gases, how hard practice is. You don't see the hard part. You only see us having fun. You see the commercialized advertisement of what we do. And I think a lot of people advertise their lives to be a certain way. And I think that can kind of, skew your view of your own self and ultimately, help hurt your self-esteem. So I think, man, just stay true to your stuff. Stay grounded, stay true, and just work. Work for what you want. And nothing's going to come easy. A lot of things, if it comes easy, probably ain't worth having anyway. Right. That's what we always say. Just grind, man. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Legacy piece?
Legacy piece? Yeah. I mean, I feel like he give a lot of legacy pieces anyways. You know what I mean? Like normally what we do, we ask somebody like, what do you want to be remembered for as for your legacy? You know what I'm saying? Like as your legacy, if you going through Cleveland, you said, Richmond, Middle Creek, like what has been the legacy piece that you want everybody to remember for as you touch them?
Man, I think when I'm done coaching, when I'm done coaching, I'm out of athletics altogether. I just want people to remember me for being the guy that they can always come to when things were hard. You know what I mean? I think I've been in every situation. I have players. I have players in prison right now. I have players. I've been to funerals for players. I've been to grandma funerals, granddad funerals, and I just want people to know that Coach Jacobs was always there for them. You know what I mean? I ain't saying that figuratively, like, oh yeah, Coach Jacobs was there. Coach Jacobs was really there. I'm picking up the phone at 2 a.m. I'm coming to help bail you out. I'm coming when there's no groceries. You can call Coach Jacobs and I'm gonna be there for you, because those are some of the times that I think people get into these situations and their life can go one way or the other. And I just want to make sure their life's still on that steady path. You know what I mean? I think a lot of times people make decisions when they're put in tough situations that affect their lives for 10 or 15 years down the road. Yeah. You know what I mean? If I can just be a small change in somebody's life to help them stay on the straight and narrow, I'm willing to do that. You know what I mean? And I think, a lot of my players still show me a lot of love. People come back, they show us love, they come, they check in with me. So I feel like I'm doing things right on that end. But, I don't need no stadium named after me. I don't need no field named after me. I just want people to know, man, this dude really loved and took care of us when he was in it, man. And I think, if you ask people right now that have played for me, they all can say that. Yeah. Sometimes people get caught up and on the outside looking in, they're like, man, this dude, blah, blah, blah. But the ones that really played with me and played for me, they all can say that. I always looked up.
And you can feel that, you know what I'm saying? Just you talking and just the mentality from what you've seen online. Like, you know what I'm saying? If people know ball, people know how coaches go, like, you can see, like, man, he's really touching these kids, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I appreciate you, you know what I'm saying? I really appreciate your time. And I appreciate you don't know this, but the little gem that you would give somebody else. Like, I was kind of locked in on just a little small stuff, you know what I'm saying? Just how locked in a linebacker got to be in certain details, you know what I mean? So it's a long way, you know what I'm saying? How long? Yeah. That was like 8 years, 10 years? It was some years ago.
Like 10 years ago, man.
Yeah, and you're still going.
10 years ago, man. I've worked with some really good coaches, though, man. I don't want to leave here without saying that. Coach C gave me my first job here at Middle Creek. Me and him went down to Richmond County. I followed him down there. I left there, went to Cleveland with Scott Riley. And Coach C showed me how to be a coach. Coach Riley showed me how to run a program, how to everybody, and then you talk about being a family, all his coaches were so dialed in that when he got on our cases about doing things wrong, nobody sucked their teeth, nobody got mad. It was like, hey, we got to do our job. And then I come back to Lee County with Coach Bordeaux, and Coach Bordeaux was down with Richmond. Yeah. He was the OC down there. So I got to spend 3 years with Coach Bordeaux as his DC. And Coach Bordeaux is probably one of the most mild-tempered guys. You never see Coach Bordeaux get too mad. You never see him upset. He's just here all the time. Yeah. You know what I mean? No matter what the situation was. So, I'm trying to adapt to some of these guys' game, like, pull little pieces from everybody. And I think that's what made me like the coach I am. I got some really good coaches with me now at Middle Creek. A lot of those guys probably be head coaches here soon. But, hopefully, man, we can keep winning while they're here.
Yeah.
And then we will go worry about the other stuff later, man. But I had some really good dudes that helped me get to this point too.
Yeah, I got you, man. I appreciate your
Yeah,
time, man.
Appreciate you.
Y'all go follow Middle Creek Football on Instagram or any Twitter, whatever, and we're gonna leave that all in the description.
Yeah.
I appreciate your time.
Like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Run it up.
Appreciate you checking it out. Do it. Well, that's straight.